This episode of ShowerCast is brought to you by Steve Ballmer. Because if you are the developer, you should move your ass and code some quality apps for Windows Phone. This is Sam, and welcome to the ShowerCast. So it's been a pretty busy week for the Windows Phone fans, as last Friday Microsoft has released a new Windows 10 Mobile or Windows Phone 10 or Windows 10 for phones preview, which everyone was pretty excited about until, of course, they actually downloaded and tried it. So if you haven't heard, on Friday, Microsoft actually has delayed the rollout by 2 hours because apparently we had some server errors or whatever, and we had to take them down and fix the mess. So it's also a fun fact that Microsoft has actually been criticized for never releasing anything on Friday, and here you have it. We just have done that. So there are actually quite a few new supported phones as far as the new Windows 10 preview goes. And I was actually one of those people that was really excited to test it on my 920 because 930 is still unable to get that. And so upon downloading it, the very first bug that I have experienced, which is my SIM card was not found. So I actually am unable to make any calls or do anything with my phone actually that requires a cell phone connection. So all I can do is connect to Wi-Fi and play with the build itself. And as far as the build itself goes, actually there are quite a few new improvements, including the new Outlook apps, and Project Spartan is finally here, which was something that everyone has been anticipating for quite some time, and we finally got our hands on it. So the build itself is actually pretty terrible. I mean, if Microsoft, assuming they want to deliver it sometime this summer, I have no idea how we are going to do that because it's just awful. I mean, I was even unable to open my messaging app, which says a lot. I mean, I can't call and I can't write messages, and the only thing I could do was actually browse. And as it turns out, the Project Spartan is still pretty in early stages because it's not that great. I mean, it's laggy and slow, and yeah, it's missing features. So if you're still considering to trying Windows 10 for phones, just don't and wait for another preview. And funnily enough, they're actually, yeah, I believe it was Lumia 530 or 630 or 520 that if you are trying to roll back to Windows Phone 8.1, there was a chance that your phone will actually be bricked. So Microsoft has since pulled the preview for these phones. So if you are one of those people, you are out of luck. And there's also one neat trick I'd like to share you. Is if you're stuck with Windows 10 for phones or you're just testing it, is that if you play with it for a while, it's actually pretty slow and just not that smooth. And there's actually one way that you can fix that, which is if you go to settings and and turn on vibration and all the alerts and just play with these toggles, then the build actually becomes really fast, pretty much on the pair of Windows Phone 8.1. So I'm not sure if this is some kind of hidden way to turn off debuggers or anything or just a bug, but that's a quick tip for you on how to improve the overall speed of your Windows 10 for phones build. There are also a lot, I mean a lot of complaints about the user interface, and which is something that we see pretty much every day. And if you visit Reddit slash Air Windows Phone, you will see that it's like a broken record because everyone is not, I wouldn't say not everyone, but like a lot of people don't really feel the new UI, which is basically a mix of Android and iOS, I guess. So, of course, there are actually some benefits to these universal apps with same UI, which is Microsoft can actually now use a much more of the same code that we use for their Windows apps or even iOS slash Android apps, which means that the development schedules, I guess, will actually improve, and the Microsoft could actually pick up the pace because they will no longer have to recode everything for different UIs or anything. Although still, I'd rather. I wonder how do you feel about that? Would you rather see like slower app releases or slower app releases and the same UI as on Windows Phone 8.1, or would you actually get faster builds of new apps and more features, but see hamburgers everywhere, or pizzas or whatever? That's something actually I haven't thought about yet. So I guess I'd pick hamburgers if they were at the bottom of the screen because I don't really mind hamburgers as long as they are implemented with a just with a mind of one-handed users who use their phones with one hand. And speaking of app releases, Microsoft has actually released Halo yesterday. It was Halo Spartan Strike, which we actually promised back in December, and then it got delayed and delayed, and then Microsoft has never talked about it since. So the funny thing was about this release was actually uh, it came out on iOS first, and everyone got really upset. And I mean, if you haven't seen an upset Halo fan that is also a Windows Phone fan, oh, you just check some early comments, and everyone was complaining. And uh, I too was pretty shocked actually because I had no idea what was going on. I mean, the Windows Phone build was supposed to be released back in December, and here we go. iOS version came out, and that was it. So fortunately, just a few minutes after, the Windows 8 build came out, and then a few hours later, one for Windows Phone. So as far as the game itself goes, I did really enjoy the first Halo game because everything was new and it was just pretty awesome. The controls are fun and everything is just reeks of quality. So I was pretty excited to buy a new one, which is also a universal app, which means that if you buy on Windows Phone, you can play on Windows 8 and vice versa. And the progress also synchronizes, so it's pretty awesome. But the game itself feels sort of like a reskin of a previous Halo game because I mean the enemies are the same on the very first few levels I played, which you can check on Frustrating Plays on showerapps.com or just YouTube or whatever. The very first level begins sort of like a Call of Duty. It gives you that Call of Duty vibe. I have no idea why, because the last Call of Duty I played was actually Modern Warfare 2. So the very first level, I feel already recognized like all the enemies were same from we just took previous Halo game enemies, and they haven't even like reskinned them or made any modifications like give them at least a different color armor, I mean, or anything. It just felt uh, like a reskin, and the levels were pretty terrible. At least the first few, while the first Halo game just really blew me away, and while this one still retains great controls and even improves them on the Windows 8, assuming you're playing with mouse and a keyboard, I just couldn't help it, and I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, I maybe give it another try, but you'll just have to check my frustrating plays video to see what it's all about. And speaking of other apps, Microsoft actually released a Bing app on iOS and guess which other platform? Yep, Android. I guess we will soon start seeing more like Microsoft releases X app for Android and iOS. Windows, where's Windows Phone app? I have no idea. So it just, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Microsoft. I mean, Satya Nadella said that it's Windows the best. I mean, all apps first or Windows the best or something like that, and we're still not seeing that. I mean, Office, Bing, any SkyDrive, Skype, just take any app and all of them are much better on a competitive platform. So I have no idea why is that. I mean, sure, I know because Microsoft is going where all the user base is, but I mean, come on. Where? What about us? What about Windows Phone users? We also want some quality apps or anything. And considering the current stage of Windows 10 for phones, I'm wondering what exactly is going on at Microsoft and whether or not they will actually have enough time to finish the build before the time runs out, or if we'll see another delay, which we did with Windows Phone 8.1 and Windows Phone 8. So that was it as far as the apps go. We also reviewed a few games this week, including Blitzblocks, which is a pretty awesome endless arcade game, and Extreme Wheelchairing, a frustrating driving simulator, I guess. And if you played Age of Empires, then you should definitely check out our top 10 Age of Empires Castle Siege tips and tricks, which we published recently. And that's it as far as all the apps go. And one other thing that Microsoft fans, or at least people that hate Google, will be happy to know is actually that Google got into some antitrust issues, which means that EU has issued a statement, and now Google has, I believe, 4 weeks or I'm not sure exactly about the time frame, but Google basically has to respond to EU regarding antitrust violation claims, and then EU will fine them, I guess. And the scenario actually involves both Android and manipulation of search results. And if you remember, back in the 90s, Microsoft also got into trouble for abusing its monopoly power with Windows. And when it comes to Android, it's actually pretty similar to what would happen to Microsoft back in the day, because Google too like forces OEMs to set default apps, and like you can't have a default, let's say, Nokia Hem app and use Google Play service at the same time. So hopefully that will change. I mean, that will definitely help OEMs, and that will also help to diversify I believe pretty much like the whole marketplace, which will be pretty awesome. And speaking of things that need to be regulated, it's actually the US carriers, especially because if you remember back in the day, not back in the day, I'm sorry, like just recently, Microsoft has signed a deal with Samsung, which meant that their OneDrive, Skype, and OneNote tabs would come pre-installed on a new Galaxy S6. And so Microsoft paid the money, I assume. And what happens then? Verizon and AT&T have decided to remove them. I mean, it. I mean, a carrier should be just like a dumb cell tower which sends you bills, and that's it. Why are we trying to like take over this market and control everything? I have no idea. So I actually have no idea how US carriers like gain that much power. I mean, Verizon and AT&T, because T-Mobile and Sprint actually do not mess with the at least Galaxy S6, and these apps are still here. So I have no idea. It's actually like if Verizon or AT&T have some sort of agenda against Microsoft, or it's basically just a, I don't know, maybe they have competitive apps or anything. So yeah, that was how I feel about carriers. I'm sure everyone, or at least a lot of people, feel the same way. And uh, as far as ever important news or anything goes, uh, that was pretty much it, considering that was a pretty big week, especially with Windows 10 for phones. And I just want to hear your thoughts regarding visibility, if you have tried, or if there are any positive things you can say about it actually. Uh, or where not do you like the UI and so on. So that was it. A pretty short podcast this week. Oh, and I just remembered that phone breaking bug actually occurred on Lumia 520, 525, and 526. So these phones are no longer able to receive a new build or upgrade. And also, if you're wondering why, okay, let's just begin from the start. Uh, some sites have reported that Microsoft has actually pushed Windows Phone GDR2 to those using a Windows Insider app, and even 930, which was unable to get Windows 10 for phones, actually got a GDR2, which includes like a ability to support Bluetooth keyboards, like sort of reorganized settings, which actually I didn't really enjoy. I mean, maybe it will take time to use to. And also now there is like all apps, I believe link, or yes, it's a link. Once you scroll at the bottom of the sky screen, which I don't really like because it breaks the design, at least for me, and I'd rather much prefer an arrow rather than just all apps text. But anyway, if you are using 930 or any other phone that was unable to receive GDR2 and you're wondering why, it actually all comes down to uh, a revision of the phone, I guess, because only the second gen, I wouldn't call it a generation, but basically each phone has like either it came as a version 1 or a version 2. So the first version phones, actually all of them are unable to get the this GDR2 build, or I'm also wondering if that's also the reason why 930 didn't get Windows Phone 10, because of the difference between generations, I guess. And also, if you upgraded your phone, and as I said, I wasn't able to have a self connection, one thing you can do to fix it is hard reset the phone, assuming you can afford that. I personally can't do that because all my messages are there, and I have no idea if backups are working, so I'd rather just wait and see what happens next. And you may also try disabling a SIM pin, which also solved this issue for at least few people. And yeah, That's all as far as the tips go. So it's been nice talking to you. That was Sam from Shower Apps. This was ShowerCast. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you can. And if you want to join the podcast, and which would be pretty awesome considering I wouldn't have to talk all on my own, please email at sam@showercast.com and I'll see what we can do. So thank you for listening. This was Sam from showerapps.com and I'll see you soon.